Perfect. Well, apologies everyone for late start. We were just having a little bit of a technical difficulty there, but welcome to the Kinloch Representative Group representatives and also those that are online today to listen in. So welcome to everyone. This is our first meeting for 2022 and we have got quite a large agenda, so we'll get right into it. We have apologies, lateness for Mayor David, and our Deputy Chair Belinda Walker is leaving early. 3:50, Belinda? And we are going to bring forward the update from the Kinloch Families Trust between 4.3 and 4.4. So we will bring 4.10 up to that point. So Belinda has the opportunity to update us on the Families Trust. Can I ask if there are, could I have a mover please for the apologies?
I'll move.
Thank
Tim
you,
Britton.
John Williamson. And a seconder?
Tim Britton.
Oh, Tim. Thank you, Tim. Conflicts of interest. I would take all the papers as being read today. Any conflicts of interest from anyone on the committee? Thank you. Confirmation of minutes of the representative group meeting of the 25th of November 2021. It seems such a long time ago. I take the minutes as read. Are there any points of clarification from those minutes?
Tim Britton, Chair. I see a 4.4. Council would conduct a 12-month Wi-Fi connection trial for the Kinloch Community Hall.
Yes.
I just wondered at what stage that was at.
Certainly. Andrew, are you able to update us on that?
No, not on the physical connection. I understood it was to happen in the new year, but I haven't heard a confirmation that it's actually being done. So we might have to come back next time and give you a final update on that. But unless you've got anything else, Tanya?
Tanya?
Sorry, through the chair, Kathy. I do know that we've had a delay from Crows with the fibre rollout, so I believe it is due to happen in April. So we should be up and running by next meeting. But I'll confirm and share that update.
Excellent. Are we able to put those onto the as an action point, just so that we have a point of clarification?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Excellent. So no more points of clarification? Can I then recommend that the minutes of the 21st of, sorry, I've just lost my piece of paper, the 25th of November, sorry, 2021, are accepted as true and correct record.
Yep.
Could I have a mover, please?
Yes, Kathy, I will.
Belinda, thank you. And a seconder?
I'll second.
And Matt Andrews will second.
Kia ora, Matt. I didn't see you pop in there. Thank you.
Ka pai aroha mai, Chair, for being late, a little bit late.
Apologies accepted, not a problem. Thank you. Right, 4.1, action points update. Tanya, are you able to fulfill that role, please, and give us an update? Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathy. Kia ora koutou. Happy New Year to everybody, and I hope you're all safe and well within your bubbles. So there's 2 points of action that we currently have on our action sheet, being Nisbet Terrace maintenance and also the toilet for the Eastern Beach Reserve. The Nisbet Terrace maintenance, so one of the staircases has been finalised and that's been put to bed, and we still have 2 remaining staircases that require some structural maintenance to them to be upgraded, so to speak, and they will be completed by June this year. So our operations team are a little under the pump at the moment. So they haven't been quite where we'd like them to be, but they will be on track. So unless Greg, you want to add anything, but I'm about to call on you for the next one. So in regards to the toilet for the Eastern Beach Reserve, as noted, we have received a report from Core 50 and assessing as to whether it meets the expectations of our stakeholders. However, I've asked the beloved Mr. Hadley along to give us a bit of a further update on that space. So I shall share the table with Greg.
Right, thank you. Yeah, so sorry, I've got a bit of a bad connection here, so you'll hear a little funny sound every now and then as my computer charges and then doesn't. So apologies for that, the sound effects. So yeah, we've received just the Core 50 report for the toilet block. Basically, just to summarise it, it rules out the site that we were looking at as unsuitable for a number of reasons. Identifies a site at the end of Keitha Place. So the little cul-de-sac head that comes down towards that eastern stormwater gully. Really just because there's reticulation, there's a little bit of reserve land down the end, there's reticulation within the vicinity, both sewer and water. But to be honest, I think there's, and the details of that site haven't been explored, and we're going to have to do that because I think it's one of those devils in the details ones. It's a pressurised sewer main. I don't think we've got fallen. There's a number of things that we just have to explore that a bit further. And then the other question would be exactly how the residents might feel about that, the residents of Keitha Place. It's not on the lakefront, obviously, but it links quite handily to it with a walkway. However, yeah, might get a little bit of resistance to that site. One thing we haven't explored, and I thought I'd just signal today, is that we have neighbouring trust land and we also have dock land a little bit further on. They currently have a toilet facility beside the track. One thing we haven't explored, I guess, is partnership arrangements that we could possibly do working in with either of those groups to actually site something on that land. So that's another avenue, I guess, that we could actually look at if we wanted to be looking at all of the options down at that eastern end of the beach.
Thanks, Greg. Would we have any timeline on that at all?
Well, I would certainly hope that we'd have more clarity by the next meeting for you. As I said, I haven't actually started any conversations with Department of Conservation, but or any trust landowners either. But I mean, it's something that we can do if you think that's worth exploring. I guess in the meantime, we've got our portaloos down there. That'll probably, I think that's programmed to come out after Easter. But yeah, okay. So that's where we're at.
Thank you. So that will remain as an action point.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for a wee while as we explore both the Keitha Place option and also maybe an alternative site to that.
Thank you. Any questions from the floor?
Madam Chair, if I might. One thing I'd just like to say, a great well done on the stairs on the lakefront. I think they're great. I've used them, very safe, very sound. Regarding the toilets, the dock trust land option is definitely one we've raised previously, but I don't believe we're fully explored as arrangements. And regarding residents' preference, would just like to reiterate, there's been human excrement picked up from that beach prior to the toilets being put in place. So just to be very, very explicit on what's been found on that beach when we didn't have a portaloo there. So just as long as the whole picture is presented when we are talking to the residents there, because I can appreciate that it may not be something that they really want to have, but the alternative is not very desirable either. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Kathy, I'd just make the comment that it would be worthwhile exploring all options, because obviously the Keitha Place option, I'm sure we'll get some resistance. So I would encourage the all options being open and to be worked on.
Yes, thank you, Tim, and also that safety aspect for antisocial behaviour as well. If it's tucked around the corner, it might pose a bit of an issue for the community. So thank you for that. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Tanya.
excuse me, Madam Chair, you have muted yourself.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Recommendation is that the Kinloch Rep Group receives the current action points update. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please?
Tim Britton, I'll move.
Thank you. And Belinda, was that you?
Yes, happy to second, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you. Thank you. 4.2, Greg, obviously, Parks operational update, please.
Right, get myself together. Okay, so I guess I'll start off with the tree report, tree assessment. And so Adrian Lamont from RB Eco, he's had an initial look through Kinloch. He's been out there doing some assessment work anyway, and had a bit of a look, but he's come back to me and said, what was the original, did we have a written brief? What was the brief? And I said, well, no, we didn't have a written brief. We were just asked to produce a bit of a tree plan for Kinloch. So I guess just in our world, we don't have tree plans as such for communities, certainly at a town scale, and often we'll be in a situation of doing an assessment on a street by street basis, or maybe slightly wider. So in a situation like Turangi, where you've got a whole curb and channel replacement program with trees affecting that, then you're looking at kind of that bigger picture. But we haven't sort of done that for other villages. So it's almost kind of thinking that we might need to take just a wee step back and figure out exactly what it is that the rep group wants, and whether we, I haven't discussed this with any of the exec team, but whether we actually look at a workshop type thing where we actually figure out what it is that we want. So is it about a look to Kinloch? So is it at the moment you could look around the older part of the village and go, okay, there's the tree stock there is very Northern Hemisphere, kind of Holyoke heritage, if you like. It's that sort of 60s, 70s. You've got a whole lot of silver birches that the regional council now don't call it a pest tree, but certainly they don't advise planting them. So very close to a pest, they cause allergies and all sorts of things. So there's quite a number of those there. You've got obviously the iconic Lombardy poplars. And again, Northern Hemisphere sort of look. You've got cherries up in that eastern sort of subdivision. And then I guess over in Seven Oaks, you've got some oaks, but you've also got what's, I guess, a lot more sort of native and endemic to the area sort of plantings. So is it about a desire to have a particular look or feel for Kinloch, and then we maintain everything towards that and replant towards that? Or do you just actually want to understand what you've got at the moment and how we might manage that? And I think those are kind of two different things. And I haven't got anything to actually, I guess, tell Adrian to go forward with. And so that's why I'm sort of suggesting we take a step back and actually go, well, this is what we're wanting out of this tree plan.
Madam Chair, if I might address that one. Great. So, Greg, some time ago we had original discussions, and the name's just escaping me at the second, with one of the TDC staff, and Kenrig Road was assessed for, are there any trees that are sick, any gaps in the look of the planting on that particular road? And the idea we had expected at that time was street by street, 1 or 2 streets a year, we're going to be assessed for that matter. So, for example, if I take Angela Place that I live on, there's some trees there that look like they're Christmas trees that have just been thrown out, so they're inappropriate for the size of the street. Is that, breaking up roads, etc. Or, are things perfectly fine as they are? The second question you rightly said was the whole look and feel of Kinloch would definitely be, I feel, a workshop situation, and definitely a question for a greater workshop piece. But certainly the first idea of assessing each street was more a case of what's the health and are they well maintained, and that's that coming back to that question we've had with tree damage in the village before, is, you know, people have taken things into their own hands with some of the poisonings, etc. we've had prior, and a question has been raised previously. One of the reasons for that maybe is because we don't feel that they're as well maintained as they can be. So I'm not commenting personally on that. I'm just raising that the street by street one was what we expected, and the bigger workshop was down the track. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Belinda. Are there any other comments relating to the trees?
Oh, then, Madam Chair, I would just support the approach of the Kinloch residents or the community think they need an assessment of particular trees for the look and the feel of the place. I would definitely support that.
Thank you, John. Tim, were you able to comment on the structure plan?
I support the comments that Belinda made, really, that that initial street by street stock take, if you like, of the state of the trees and their health and what have you. And then a longer term thing, well, obviously would need to be workshopped to a wider group to get people's long-term view. But initially, that street by street, how healthy and are the trees in good order.
Thank you. I've just had a thing pop up from John Williamson, should vote on recommendations. So, sorry, Shani, could you clarify that?
Oh no, Madam Chair, it's just that we were just seconding, moving second. We weren't voting on it. That's all. Just a matter of process. That's all. I just send it to you personally.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure that, right. Well, the recommendation is, and I wonder if we could change this recommendation, Shani, that the group receives the park's operational update. Greg, was there more to come? You're on mute, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, there is quite a bit more.
A big pardon. If you would just carry on then, please.
Oh, okay. Right, thank you. So, yeah, that was the trees. Toilet block, we've covered the foreshore. It's been a few things going on down there. I guess a meeting with, I think it's Ross, who's from the group that maintains Whangamata Stream and has I think it's a draft agreement with DOC, looking at purchasing a mower and wondering if they could maintain the lakefront as well. So obviously the section that that's in question is Trust Board land. So I've had initial conversations with Trust Board, and in principle that sort of sounds okay. We just still waiting to see the draft DOC agreement, but it's likely that if we entered into something like that, we would be looking at a similar thing whereby use of agricultural sprays, any arboriculture work that was undertaken, that kind of thing would still sit with council, but that sort of basic mowing maintenance could be done by the community, and that the actual face of the escarpment would be out of scope. And so moving on to that, the escarpment, I'm meeting with 2 people from Regional Council next Monday, and they're going to help me with a bit of, I've got some soil stability questions, and also some vegetation questions about what should be on there, what shouldn't be, but with that sort of background soil stability. So I'll get some answers out of that next Monday. Also on the foreshore, Jules has been working with Sher Mohi from Trust Board. So we've got some frustrations with the our current sort of system of barriers, if you like, down there, which is rocks, which you can hook your 4-wheel drive onto and move if you want to, and so there's all that sort of thing. So we're looking at probably more of a bunding arrangement, and then plant out the bunds, so it's a lot more kind of natural, and we can plant a couple of te koka, a couple of cabbage trees or something as kind of that are going to get a bit of height. Here's the entranceway to that part of the reserve, and it'll also start to delineate the two areas, and then we can manage the access in and out of there, and probably do a better job of that than what we've been doing in the past. It's just quite hard with the current systems we've been using. So that's on the foreshore. Have we got any questions on the foreshore? I was just going to quickly mention the marina as well while we were.
Greg, oh, sorry, could I just ask a question just with regards to the community assisting council in its ability to keep Kinloch very nice and trim?
Yep.
I noticed that two gentlemen from Poplars that have been clearing the Whangamata Road berms and doing quite an incredible job, but we've been left now with a large amount of green waste in piles all the way down almost to Oakdale from Kinloch turnoff. So where does the responsibility for that lie for the cleanup? If the community is actually undertaking the work, is council able to come in and assist with things like the cleanup of green waste?
So that was, I think, an arrangement with the transportation team. It wasn't parks, and so I did reach out to the transportation team to see if that was, and I believe they had arranged contractors to pick that up, and it hasn't happened yet.
No, it's been over a month.
Yeah, so I'll follow up on that, but my sort of feelings with going back to the lakefront was that, you know, any of that sort of clearing work, so especially if there's, you know, power tools and things involved, that arboriculture sort of working on trees, that would remain with us, and then any sort of cleanup, which would normally be mulching, and we would use the mulch down on site to mulch around the trees, which you'll probably notice we've started to do. It just makes maintaining around under the trees a bit easier, and creates a bit of an organic material for the trees to feed on as well. So that's something we'd keep control of down on the lakefront.
So with just coming back to with regards to, say, Frank Webb and Colin undertaking this work on Whangamata Road, I mean, from a health and safety perspective, is there a risk or a responsibility to council on that? Should anything happen because they have been using equipment?
Well, if we have, so I probably can't speak on that particular site because, sorry, I'm not sort of fully versed on it. But if it was on a reserve and we had a volunteer group working on that reserve, then we have to look at volunteers in the same way as staff. So all of those health and safety practices, we'd be saying this is what you need to do, and certainly that's been a conversation with the community that they would need that same sort of robust health and safety plan that we have.
And could that be something then that the community engagement team would take on board, just to get the message out there that people just can't take it upon themselves to start cleaning up Kinloch without some form of connection back to council?
I can answer that one if you want from an engagement perspective, but yes, very, very happy to support that. It's probably, it's just getting those messages out, whatever way that looks like, but also probably just raising around the service requests. So whether it's we'd like to do something, we're just going to take it upon ourselves, versus this needs to be fixed. Maybe it's just sharing those messages. So really, really very happy to support that as much as we can.
Thank you, Libby. Belinda, you had something that you wanted to say?
Yes, I have two questions. Thank you, Madam Chair. First question regarding the foreshore and any mowing that's done there. Greg, was that going to be a paid piece or a volunteer piece?
No, so they were suggesting that it was voluntary. So originally I thought they wanted to maybe charge us for I went into the conversation thinking that was, so they'd be like a contractor, but they were saying, so I'm not quite sure what the funding kind of model is, but they were looking to basically build a whole, this is why justification, I guess, for buying this particular mower. and then also I guess a desire just to see the lakefront done on more regularly.
Wonderful. I just wanted to make sure we have so many lawn maintenance contractors in Kinloch. We didn't see them being undercut in that way at all. And just a quick question on the foreshore, and wonderful to hear the bund ideas, etc. Just a question, is that going to be extended to the barbecue areas, the other one where they move the rocks fairly frequently?
Yeah, I'm not sure that we're going to bund around there. I'll have to check with Jill. She's been working on that plan. But we are looking to actually beef that up a little bit as well, because you're right, there are rocks moved there regularly and vehicles driving onto the beach.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate all your work in that.
Madam Chair, I can report on the scrub lawnmower under the KCA report. It has been a community initiative. Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. Greg, anything else from you?
Yes. Sorry. So a little while ago, I had a meeting with the Marina Society looking to deposit. So they've got some routine maintenance dredging work coming up. They need to dredge the marina to gain a bit of depth again. And we're looking to really for a place to dispose of the dredging material that they take out of the marina. And so they approached council looking at a number of options. I think the last time that exercise was undertaken, they actually disposed of it on farmland up the road a bit, and it was spread on farmland. The question was asked, could it go back onto the foreshore? And so we engaged Tonkin and Taylor to undertake a pretty comprehensive testing bores throughout the whole marina. Did the whole suite of tests, both on the performance of the sediment that's in there, the performance characteristics, which came back saying that it's virtually identical to the foreshore. So it is the sediments from the foreshore have migrated in there. But also obviously for heavy metals and other contaminants. So with probably not an issue at Kinloch, but anti-fouling and things that they use on boats can contaminate those marina sites. So no sign of any of those contaminants in the samples either. So looking at the methodology, which was dredge the marina, they have a series of containers, like literally shipping containers, sitting in the car park, and the materials pumped into there. The solids are flocculated out, so there's a flocculant, which is a chemical that attracts solids to it, and sort of binds all the solids together, and then they can separate those out, and what you end up with is clean sand, and that gets washed a couple of times, and then it can be then deposited wherever. So they're just still going through their processes, but everything indicates that we could actually use that material quite happily on the eastern foreshore as part of a beach renourishment plan. So just letting you know that those conversations have happened, and that we're working with them towards something there.
Thank you, Greg. Any questions relating to that for Greg? All right. Anything else, Greg? Oh, sorry, Belinda.
Oh no, just a question for Parks. If we're done with the rest of the Parks update.
Yep.
Okay, great. Just a quick Parks question, Greg. The bylaw change for the dog free run for Kinloch last year. As I understand it, it's now the extended area that goes past the wee playground that's at the end of Rogers Place in the lane. And just a quick question of if that's the confirmed free run space, two things: signage at the entrance to each of those reserve areas still say dogs on leads, so it actually has caused some confusion with a few conversations I've had on that area. And if it is a free run dog area, what can we do to fence the
Sorry, Belinda, you went on to mute.
Yeah, I missed
I
the
just
last part.
realised that. Sorry, which part did it go on to mute, Kathy?
The fenced. The fenced. Yeah.
If it is a free run area, then what can we do to fence the little playground there just for safety reasons? Thank you.
Okay.
Through the chair, can I help Greg just clarify before he speaks about the path? Because my name is Tammy Ellington. I'm a policy advisor, and I worked on the bylaw for dogs last year. And I can confirm that there has been no change to the existing dog exercise area in Kinloch. We did consider it, and we decided to retain it as is. So there have been no changes made to what exists there already. Back to Greg.
Thanks, Timmy. I think the clarification from you, Belinda, is the fact that if you go onto the bylaw, there is a map that clearly states the dog exercise area, but around the playground, that's a no-go area. Is that your concern?
That was my concern, but Timmy's answered that the area hasn't changed, so that's not included in the area there. My question still remains, though, the Marina Terrace entrance to that reserve still shows dogs on leads, and that small area is still the free run spot. So just a clarification of signage there would be much appreciated.
Thank you. Right, Greg, anything else from the update, operational update from Parks? You're on mute, Greg. You're on mute, Greg.
Just while Greg's trying to find his button, I think Matt might have his hand up there as well, Madam Chair.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Matt, you have the floor.
Kia ora koutou, aroha mai. So I'm a bit like Belinda, just on the side of the road, so I do apologise for having my camera off. I just did have a question for Greg just regarding the sand being put back on the foreshore. Just want to make sure that the Tū Whare Tō Māori Trust Board are consulted regarding that. That's all.
Yeah, so that's the next stage of the conversations, I suppose, with the marina. So I guess the first part was exploring, is this even possible? And then the next part of that is, if it is, then who do we need to talk to? And certainly Trust Board, Regional Council, consenting two people from the consents team from Regional Council were there just to talk about what process would be required, just really in an early advisory stage. And so there's a bit to go yet, but that does involve discussions with Trust Board as well. Obviously, part of it's putting it on the reserve, but it's going to finish up on the lake bed as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, any other questions for Greg relating to the operational update? Right, there is a recommendation then that the Kinloch Rep Group receives the Parks operational update. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please?
I'll move.
Yvonne
I'll
and
second.
Tim, thank you. And all those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I'm acutely aware of the time. I just wonder, Belinda, whether you might step in here with your family's update, if that's all right, Libby. I know that you're about to give us a summer reflection, but Belinda, I wonder if you could just update us on the families before you have to leave, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and apologies to everyone that I do have to go. Unfortunately, Tamariki basketball calls this afternoon. So Kinloch Families Trust update. So Kinloch Families Trust, the way we operate, just to remind everyone, is that we use the Kinloch Families Facebook group. The membership of that group is 732, and all our questions on policies or actions we take, we go back to the group to ask them what they think, so we can change the decision-making model for community groups in that way. So regarding online consultation, one thing we've just popped out this morning, and just want to say the TDC have done a fantastic job in trying to go to all the places for the community engagement on the various things that you're engaging right now. And we've just asked the question, would they like to do something online? And at the moment, we've had 117 responses and a 15% rate have said yes, they'd like an online consultation. What form that will take, I don't know yet, and have been in consultation with Rose Prisk on that. So we'll keep working on that to see if we can add something to the party there. Regarding the tennis courts, just wanted to say again, a fantastic thank you for the great work on the tennis courts. They look fantastic. And we've definitely seen, we did another little poll on, hey, are you already using it? Would you use it because it's been updated? And you can see a significant number are now intending to use it because of the upgrade to both courts. So that's fantastic. Again, we had planned to run the Kinloch Music Festival, and of course it got postponed due to COVID. And again, we went out to the community to ask their thoughts on that. We actually could have run Kinloch. We've worked through, again, with the fantastic events team at the TDC to create some options for that. But when we asked the community, you know, are you feeling safe? It just wasn't the time to run it. And the community gave a very clear message of no, thank you. But we're postponing it and we'll review that decision in May. We deliberately went with all local artists to give us the opportunity, if we did need to postpone, that we had that option to relatively easily stand it up again. So we haven't gone with postponement, with cancellation, we've gone first postponement. And the final update from a Kinloch Families Trust perspective is Terrain Park. It's certainly coming along. We've had obviously COVID delays with SAYS are very kindly helping do some of the terrain moulding, and our local residents are helping to shape and design it, which is fantastic, particularly the Gibson family. And I wanted to leave a couple of questions, Kathy, if I might. They won't be a Kinloch Families update, but one question I have for the annual plan is, where does the there was the transport consultation in the last couple of years, which we submitted to have a pathway from the end of Kinloch Road and Whangamata Road along the side on the berm to Whangamata Steam Trail, and where that could be in the plans. And my other question is in the speed area, how the intention would be to enforce the new, for example, 80k zone, potentially Whangamata Road and Poihipi. And also I noted, you know, potentially there could be signage in keeping with the village to help slow the traffic down on Oakdale Road, for example, and Kinloch Families Trust have got some proposed access signs, and we'd love to work with the TDC potentially on that if that will assist. My last comment on speed is one that I've made a couple of times over the years actually, and in fact have been invited by TDC previously to map the roads, Whangamata Road and Poihipi to town, but where the road markings are absolutely inadequate at the corners. There are a number of corners which should be double yellow lines. In fact, I've got a son who's about to start learning to drive, and I've been pointing them out as we go into town. Some of them are marked, which is fantastic, but in the scope of things, if we could put that on the list of things, that would be fantastic. So many thanks for your time.
Thank you, Belinda. I'm sure that those transport related questions will be forwarded to our traffic engineers. So thank you. Right, carrying on now for 4.3, summer reflections. Sounds like a song, but
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
Are we able to move that one?
Yes,
yeah,
move.
Thank you.
The recommendation is that we accept. Oh, sorry. Where are we?
Just to receive the report.
To receive the report. Thank you.
I'll move that. I'll move that.
Thank you, Tim. And
Matt Andrews, second.
Matt, thank you very much. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Right, 4.3, summer reflection. As most of you are aware, of those of you that were in the village over that New Year period, the 30th and 31st of December did cause some issues around antisocial behaviour and a considerable amount of vandalism. This resulted in community concern for safety, and a meeting was held with major stakeholders, the police, TDC, and the community, etc. So, Libby, would you like to update us, please, on the outcome of that?
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, kia ora koutou. Thank you very much. Yeah, summer reflections. I keep thinking that summer breeze makes me feel fun, just as we've going into autumn. So it is a little while ago, but yeah, as we know that the summer season was a little bit different. There were a lot of people, and there were some really good things that came out of that. Some fantastic, the shops who had struggled because of COVID, we're seeing a lot more people in them. But obviously with the visitors came some antisocial behaviour and a few issues. So as Councillor Guy has mentioned, we sort of collated those. It was a Kinloch issue, but it was also something where there were some concerns across the district. So we came together as council, but we also brought in other stakeholders, police and others, and had a meeting with I believe some people on the call were there, and other representatives from around Kinloch and police to look at those options. So antisocial behaviour, glass, rubbish, alcohol bans, speeding, all sorts of issues. And some of the solutions we've come up with, we've sort of looked at, the police have given a response around what they're going to be doing. So they'd actually expected the influx would be in the southern part of the lake over summer, but unexpectedly there were more people in Kinloch. So they had put a lot of they'd put a lot of effort into being prepared for a Māori kuratou, but they'll be looking to do that in Kinloch for the upcoming summer. So more prepared. We'll be looking at some opportunities around, obviously, solid waste and how we can manage some of the rubbish a little bit differently. Dennis Lewis and our infrastructure team has pulled together an internal team to look at that. So that's a district-wide piece of work, but also just to try and cut down on some of those rubbish issues within the village. We're going to look at how we do things from a comms and engagement perspective a little bit differently. Working with the community to ensure that we can share some messages, and Kinloch's got a really good set up in terms of being able to talk to the whole community. So we're going to keep utilising those channels to make sure we can get those messages out. We're also going to look at signage. So being a little bit clearer on where those alcohol, where the bans are, where they stop and where they start, just so that people can hopefully, alongside with the engagement and the communications, the signage is helping them to understand where they need to keep the alcohol away from. We're also asking the community to help support what we're doing here. So some of the issues that were a problem, they kind of go across a range of different organisations, police, ourselves. But we're asking the community to kind of think about being vigilant. So those who have Airbnbs, have a think about how they can manage who's going into the accommodation, and asking parents and those with younger people just to be a little bit more mindful of where they are and what they might be up to. So there's probably no one sort of silver lining solution to solve all of the problems, but we can put a little bit more effort into it. But also very happy to get feedback from yourselves and from the community on things that we can do differently. But happy to take any questions, and my colleagues will be able to maybe answer some things or may have some more input as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from Libby's presentation? Belinda?
Yeah, if I might, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the update, Libby. That was great. One thing, if I could feed into the signage question, is please take a look at the whole signage look, because I know down by what's called the Scotsman's Ramp, there's such proliferation of signs there, it almost looks like a real estate convention. So if we can make sure we kind of make them look consistent and yeah, in keeping with the area. One concern I have with your vigilance for the communities, I want to make sure that they're not being asked to be put in any unsafe situations. So certainly if there was a place that their vigilance could be reported to, and so there's a central place, then that feels comfortable. Certainly would not be happy asking our community to approach people directly, because that's just asking for them to be abused, to be honest, in those situations. So as long as we're keeping them safe, that'll be amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Belinda. Point taken on that. And I think that was more around those people that have the ability to monitor their use of Airbnb. So around that. I must say that on New Year's Eve morning, the amount of broken glass and bottles down around that Scotsman's ramp was phenomenal. And thanks go to those members of our community that actually went out and assisted in cleaning up, and also TDC. They were quick off the mark with their sweepers, and again, I think thanks needs to go to them for their prompt response. Any other questions? Can I then recommend that the Kinloch Rep Group receives the information relating to the 21-22 summer period? I ask for a mover and a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Westerman. A seconder? Thank you, Tim Britton. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Right, 4.4, Kinloch Water Treatment Plant Upgrade Project. And I assume that that is Tom. How nice to see you.
Yeah, good day, everyone. Yeah, haven't seen you for a wee while. I think last time I presented was about a year ago, but yeah, we've made quite a bit of progress on the Kinloch sort of water project. Obviously a bit of information in the paper, but just quick overview, I suppose. There's two sort of phases that are going on at the moment. There's the treatment plant construction, and we've awarded a contract to the Paul Marshall Water Consortium, who are the same contractor who were involved in the Taupō water treatment plant construction. So that's exciting. They've got some really good experience in with the Lake Taupō water, so we're pretty confident of their solution. There's some timelines there, so we're sort of little bit over a year away, based on their kind of current construction program and design and the like. We included a few kind of snips of their sort of tender phase design, I guess. They're sort of working on their revisions to that at the moment. And then the sort of second phase of work that's underway is all the pipelines that are going to connect the treatment plant to the intake and our reservoirs. And probably, as you can see from the little maps I've included, we're going to be digging up most of Kinloch, certainly the older areas. So that sort of package of work it's in two little phases. One which is underway at the moment with Nolan drainage, and that's the bit of work going around sort of Kinloch Road past the shop and along Nisbet Terrace, and I guess that sort of same methodology we expect to be used on the larger package, which is out for tender at the moment. So it's the directional drilling methodology. So there tends to be less disruption with that. So there'll be sort of holes every kind of 100 metres or so, and they'll drill the pipe between those holes. The work, I guess the Nolan drainage work is planned to be complete by June. They're probably a bit ahead of time on that at the moment. They're going really well, and the main sort of pipeline work is going to take up the best part of a year, so it'll tie in sort of with the treatment plant upgrade work. So I guess we'll have sort of more information about the main pipeline project once we award that and we get the kind of contractors program, which will sort of occur during April. So it's kind of the summary of the paper there, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Tom?
Kathy, I've got a couple, and Bruce has helped me with some of these. What will be the procedure for notifying the homes and business owners around water closures or during pipe work? And is there likely to be any water restrictions through that period? There's a couple more questions, but perhaps if you want to start with those two.
Yep. I tend to forget if you ask too many at once. So, the normal process for these pipeline construction projects, and we do these all of the time, is that when the contractor is kind of mobilising, signs go up and a letter drop goes out to all those properties kind of that are in the area where they'd be affected. I'd expect that with this bit of work, we'll be working quite closely with our engagement and comms teams to make sure we sort of have some wider comms, probably some larger signage as you come into Kinloch, that sort of thing. And then as the work proceeds, generally there's no impact right until near the end when they're actually hooking up to the pipelines. And at that point, the contractor goes through a shutdown process, which is approved by our network engineers, and letters are dropped to the customers a minimum of 48 hours before any shutdown. And the normal kind of shutdown time frame is 4 hours. So, and we'll generally be trying to kind of keep within those sorts of time frames. So, and normally during the day, unless it's a sort of significant shutdown, which may, you know, if it was longer, it may have to happen overnight, but we don't kind of foresee anything like that on this. And we don't expect any water restrictions as we work through the work, other than, you know, if there's something, some emergency that occurs, or, you know, part of this work will be back over summer again. So we may have sort of some restrictions over that period, dependent on the weather and people in the district and the like.
Thank you. And you mentioned that you've been digging up a fair part of the old village, which has just recently had fibre cables put in. Will the contractors take all care to try and avoid cutting through those?
They certainly will. If they don't, they end up with quite a big bill from the fibre company. So yeah, look at again. The contractors we are using are on our water reticulation construction panel, which there's 3 of them on that, and they're well versed in this work. They use all sorts of methods to ensure they locate all of the services. There is from time to time a service hit when it's in a location that they weren't aware of, but those sort of service strikes are certainly kept to a minimum.
Right. And in terms of where the water treatment plant is, there's been some cost blowouts in terms of the soil type, the pumice soils and what have you, which is a bit of a surprise given that the Taupō pumice soils have been the same and known for a long time. So that's one point. But the second one is, can you sort of confirm, where you're citing that, where the old tip used to be, that the actual structure is not going to be where, over that, where all the holes used to be, where the rubbish was tossed in?
Look, I guess the contractor, if you have a look at that first little picture showing their proposed location, so they've chosen the location of the building and all of the structures to be on the best piece of ground within that area. So I think most of the holes were sort of towards the back of that site. Look, I guess what we found when we went through the tender process, yes, we knew that it was pumice soils, but we found that across the board on all of these, so we're building 5 of these plants across the board, the piling costs to effectively, I suppose, put in a structure that is of an appropriate importance level. So, which effectively is to ensure that it will be there following kind of a seismic event, which is really important, obviously, for a water treatment plant. We found across the board, Motuopa, Amori, all of these sites, the geotech solutions proposed were by all 3 contractors that bid it, were really expensive. And look, it surprised a little bit our consultants that were working on it. Potentially it's in part some of the the changes we're seeing in the industry, the inflation we're seeing across the world. There's kind of many reasons, I guess, for the cost blowouts, but yeah, look, we've got a fixed price now, and and it's a design build contract from the contractor, so we're pretty confident that we're going to get a good solution out of it, and it's going to be something that's going to be there for a long time.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
I've just got one question, Tom, and I'm not sure that it actually belongs within this paper, but I've had a number of people talk to me about the clarification, the deferring of the new water reservoir project. Could you just update us on that, please?
Yep. So we had in the long-term plan a new reservoir project, and the idea is that reservoir will replace or supplement the old reservoir that probably most of you know that is off the end of Boojum Dell. It's quite a small reservoir, and the proposed location for the new one is within the Kinloch Holdings land, which is sort of in behind the International Golf Course. And it's taken us a long time to work with that owner and sort of get some headway on securing a piece of land in there. We have just over the last few months had a really positive meeting with the owner there, and we've had to adjust where the reservoir is going to sit on the land, and we're now sort of having to do some remodeling and design. And a decision was made sort of over the last 3 to 6 months that I suppose that we're not going to be in a position to construct that reservoir in the coming year. We're probably still going to be working on this land acquisition. The important point to note is we're not going to stop work on that land acquisition and that design work. It's just that it's very unlikely we'll actually get to be constructing that reservoir in the coming year. So what I kind of hope will happen is that when we get into next year's annual plan, we'll be putting money back in for the actual construction once the land is acquired. And as I say, I'm pretty confident that we're going to get a really good solution for the location of that reservoir.
Thank you, Tom. That clarifies that very nicely for those that have been asking that. I think there was a misunderstanding there that deferred meant cancelled. So thank you for that clarification. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Madam Chair. Once again, thanks, Tom. Always appreciate your output and the clarity, your agenda items in this field that you're involved in. Obviously, to touch on the last couple of years with COVID. Well, firstly, it's good having that past relationship with the Paul Marshall Water Consortium, with the Taupo Water Plants, who have that relationship, and having the obviously fixed cost. But having said that, obviously, no, it's some question you can't really answer necessarily, but with resourcing and delivery, the timelines will always be a challenge. But it's a great project to proceed with.
Yeah, thanks, John. Yeah, look, I think we're working very closely with them at the moment to try and make sure there's no kind of delays. We're looking at early procurement of things like the membranes, which are kind of set from the outset. So they're well aware of all of the kind of challenges in the market. But yeah, look, you're right. There still could be delays on this program, but we'll do everything to kind of try and avoid those as best we can.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Tom. Any further questions? There is a recommendation that the Kinloch Rep Group receives the Kinloch Water Treatment Plant project update as of the 31st of March 2022. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder?
Oh, move, Madam Chair.
Thank you, John.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tim. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. 4.5, Kinloch Wastewater Treatment Plant update. Michael, nice to see you again. Thank you.
Yes.
I'll take the paper as read, Michael, if you would just like to talk to the paper.
Yeah, sure. Haven't seen you all for a little while. Someone's time. It's been a while since it's been out, so it's good to catch up. Yeah, it's only a short paper. I guess it just outlines the main points that the construction is now largely complete. The plant has been commissioned. That was achieved before Christmas and gave us time to get the process up and running fairly well before the Christmas holiday and all the load hits. So and it's performing after some initial sort of tuning work. It's a bit of a race car of a treatment plant. So there's a lot of fine tuning, but now it's really working very well. There's a little bit of construction work remaining on the site, just some finals, but some concrete work, some surfacing work, fencing, a little bit of electrical work. But by and large, it's coming near completion, and we expect it to be wrapped up by the end of next month, maybe early May at the latest. What else we got there? Oh, there's a couple of complaints around noise from sort of residents within some of the air pipe work. That's lagging of that pipe work's been happening over the last week and should be finished tomorrow. But that was, apparently that's making quite a large difference. So hopefully those complaints finish up. But other than that, we're probably getting near the time where it'd be good to go and have a look. So maybe a site visit in May or June, late May or June might be a good idea. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions for Michael? Thank you. Just I noted in your paper, Michael, that it handled that heavy rain that we had well. Were there any other issues around that storm that came through?
No, I guess that two parts to that. There's the storm. It's a big gully and a massive catchment. So you might remember the work we put in probably a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago now. We did some flood sort of protection works and put in that second access road. So we were lucky we did that. The other access was probably 1.5 meters underwater at its last point for a few days as we waited for that to soak away. So it was valuable having that alternative access. And the flood protection work worked really well, kept the plant dry apart from what was falling straight on it. And the other part, I guess, during that event and we haven't had too many similar events like that in recent times, but we do notice quite a big spike in infiltration, and so that's water getting in from the community into the pipework and into the plant. And it's one of the reasons why you might see some letters, or some people will be getting letters over the next little while about some smoke testing we're going to do in the older part of town. And part of that is to identify, low gully traps or broken pipes or things, and find some of those points where stormwater is getting into the wastewater network, and see if we can do some repairs. Often you find a small thing, like a low gully trap. Someone's used to be 100 mils above the ground, and they've concreted a driveway and put cobbles in, and then all of a sudden it's flush, and so all the rainwater will just pour in. And so we find a few of those sorts of things when we do these exercises. So that's getting underway now.
Excellent, thank you. And obviously that will be a community engagement comms team, Tanya. Thank you. Sorry, any further questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair, no question, just to comment. I just thank you, Michael, for the report. I just hold you in the same regard, and as Tom, with the work you do with the council on these projects, having worked on another project down Turangi. So thank you very much. Keep up good work. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, and thank you, Michael. On behalf of the community, I think also Peter has to be thanked publicly for his work in dealing with the community. So
it might be a good idea. Be a good idea to get Peter out if you do want to have a walk through the site. Yes. He'd be a good person to point out all the details.
It would be perfect, actually. Hopefully we'll be able to meet face to face and organise a date for that, possibly when Tim's down here for one of the KCA meetings. Might be a good opportunity. So thank you. Right, the recommendation is that the Kinloch Rep Group receives the Kinloch Wastewater Treatment Plant project update as of the 31st of March. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? John? Tim?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Right, 4.6, update on the Whangamata Road Strategy Program. Obviously a very important for our community, a rural link road, and Bryson, I assume, is going to talk. Oh, there he is there.
Afternoon.
Hi, Bryson. You're looking very summery.
Yeah, well, it feels like summer. Yes, so we have, late last year, we began our investigation to Whangamata Road strategy, working out what we're going to do and how we're going to approach the safety of that road in the now and in the future. As part of that, we'll come in with a bit of a program of works to do that. So we've got a consultant on board at the moment that's completing this piece of work. They have gone away and done some assessments on it. They've done some site visits. We've been up and down the road 3 or 4 times, having a look at what we find as the issues. We've kind of split it up into a few sections, and we'll have a report later on, probably at the next meeting. A more detailed look at that. Essentially, what we've come up with so far is we've done a safe system assessment, which is a safety assessment of the route, so that its current condition. They've also done the assessment based on the 80km/h proposed speed limit as well. And they've assessed 3 programs already. So they've already worked out a kind of a flavour for each program and the measures they might look to do. Currently, they're working on creating a 4th program, which is a more of a overall hybrid type program, which looks putting the best bits of the other 3 together to create the final program ready for the next 10 years of infrastructure. The measures that they're looking at are all sorts of different things for the route. So it includes roadside barriers, it includes widening areas on curves, signage, delineation, all sorts of different little treatments, intersection treatments, looking at improving all the intersections on the route. Some lighting issues. They've identified, and Linda fortunately isn't here, they've identified some issues between Kinloch and Oakdale Drive around the pedestrians and the safety of those. So we have looked at it as a whole length and all mode user. So we've identified cyclists in there as well. And the safe system assessment captures all that and that in the way it assesses the safety of improvements in roads. We've also identified that the corner of by 164 Whangamata Road, I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. We've identified that as a priority through this, and we're starting to engage a consultant to come up with a detailed design for that now. Trying to come up with a detailed design solution for that.
Bryson, can I just clarify that that's the corner where often in winter the cars go off just below where the old Woodfellas wood merchants was. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
So we've identified that as the first one or the priority of the program, and we're looking to get some designers on board this financial year to get that underway as soon as possible. I guess I'll open up to any questions.
Thank you, Bryson. That sounds extremely exciting for the users of the Whangamata Road, and it answers some of the questions that Belinda Walker had previously put forward. But she has made a note that she will be watching on YouTube later on. So that would be great to have that clarified for her. So thank you. And you are likely to come back to the KRG with an update?
Yes, I'll probably be back at the next meeting with the final program and what we're looking at delivering over the next few years.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Are there any other questions?
Just is Kinloch Road itself included in that work?
Just the intersection of Whangatara and Kinloch Road. So not Kinloch Road itself, no.
Right, thank you, Bryson. No further questions, then I'll put the recommendation forward that the Kinloch Rep Group receives the information associated with the Whangamata Road Safety Strategy and 10-year program. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please?
I'll move.
Yvonne, thank you, and Tim. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Bryson, you're on again with the draft speed management plan consultation. Now, I take this paper as read, and there has been a lot of information has gone out to communities via various mediums. So I'll take the paper as read. Bryson, the floor is yours.
Yes, so we've decided, obviously, we're going out to consultation on speed management changes. There's a few within Kinloch itself. Down by the Merino, we're proposing 30 km/h, and that's really due to the high level of pedestrian activity that comes there, especially during the summer periods. We're also looking at formalising some, for want of a better word, formalising some of the speed limits that are around the new subdivisions. They obviously haven't been captured in the bylaw previously, so we're capturing them now. And the other, probably the bigger one, is Whangamata Road. We were proposing 80 kilometres speed reduction to 80 kilometres an hour. This actually, through the safe system assessment of the strategy, shows great benefit into road safety. If we can get that speed down, then we're actually reducing the serious and deaths and serious injuries on that road. I guess for this paper, there's probably still time to gather your feedback about how we should communicate and get consultation feedback from your community, from the Kinloch community. So I'm open to hear any of those sorts of avenues where we can start plugging this in and making sure that people are aware and want to provide feedback. The consultation won't close until 13th of May, so there's still heaps of time to get in there and get your feedback on this.
One of the things we talked earlier about was I'm aware that the KCA and the Kinloch Families Group will be putting individual submissions in. And as the others, all councillors who will be hearing those submissions, I put it to, unfortunately, Belinda is no longer there, but Tim, your thoughts around the KRG putting forward a submission?
Madam Chair, my understanding from the KCA, and certainly the KCA committee that's taking responsibility for this, was that it was unlikely the KCA would submit on it, given there's probably a plethora of views across the membership on something like this, and that it would be left to the individual ratepayer to submit their own thoughts directly to council on it. But so that's a comment there. I've got a question around the report, and one of the concerns that I've got is that we end up with a huge variation in speed, so you're never really sure when you're driving around what speed you're supposed to be going. And I noted in the report on page 20 that they suggest that the whole of Kinloch basically should be set at 40. And I just wonder why that has not been put forward by the council, because you're going to have to go to 30 or then 40 or maybe 50, and then you're at 80. There's a lot of things for people to keep aware of, and if there was one speed across the whole village, to me that would be that would make sense.
Yeah, I get your point of view there. I guess the speed management plan in itself is a 10-year plan, so we are looking ahead and planning this. So at the moment we're targeting high-risk rural roads, those high pedestrian areas. I know this one's a bit different for Kinloch because we're picking up those that are new subdivision areas as well, which will be set at 40. So I get that there could be some confusion about what speed limit you're doing, but yes, you're right in the sense that in the future, in the next round of speed changes, we'd be looking to drop essentially the whole of Kinloch down to 40, bar those 30k areas in the little marina area and the 80 kilometres obviously on Whakaaro Road.
But you're then going to end up with the 30s and 40s. And my point is, I guess, that those areas that you're suggesting 30 in are kind of self-policing because you have to go slow anyway. There's cars parked, particularly in the busy times when there are pedestrians and things like that. You know, if you drive up, you know, above the store or whatever, it's one way often when it's busy. So you've got to go slow. So if you could keep one speed like 40 everywhere, it would simplify it in my view. But yeah.
Okay.
Any further questioning for Bryson? So could I just ask if it's applicable for the KRG to make a submission on behalf of the Kinloch families and the Kinloch Community Association. Or leave this up to the individuals. There are opportunities, obviously, through the drop-in centre at the Tipsy Trout next Thursday afternoon and into early evening. There has been consultation in Taupo on a number of drop-in areas have been advertised. There is also the ability for KCA and Kinloch families to have disseminated this information across all their platforms. So I'm just looking for a steer from the rep group itself around making a submission on behalf of the KRG.
Madam Chair, my view is, as I stated, from the KCA's point of view, that we're better to leave it to the individuals, and there's certainly it's gone out in WhatsApp, so the wider community is aware of the council consulting on this. So my view is that we leave it at that.
All right.
I think, Madam Chair, as councillors, it might prejudice or prejudice our position because we make the final decision.
Yes, that was my concern, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'd have to obviously delegate that role to the other members of the group. But happy to say you don't want to submit, that's fine with us too. It's totally up to you.
All right, thank you. Yvonne, have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think everyone individually would be the way to go, but I'd also like to agree with Tim's comment. Having driven down to Turangi today, the most frustrating speed changes the whole way down. So I think the 40k solution is a good.
Thank you. All right, any more questions? Thank you, Bryson. I think that the work that's been done on this management plan is phenomenal, and thank you and your team for the work that's been done on that. It's made it very, very simple for people to follow, and I'm sure, given the amount of feedback that I've had personally, we will be getting a number of submissions in favour. The recommendation, now, Shani, I might need to get some help on this one, thank you, because the recommendation was that the Kinloch Rep Group makes a submission on the draft speed management plan. So could we amend that?
Yes, Madam Chair, may I suggest that your members might wish to simply receive the information. So the resolution could be that the Kinloch Representative Group receives the information on the draft speed management plan, full stop.
Thank you. Could I have
in that direction?
Thank you, Tim. Yvonne, John, comment?
No, I support that.
Thank you. Could I have a mover then for that recommendation, please, that the Kinloch Rep Group receives the information on the draft speed management plan consultation document? Yvonne, thank you. Tim, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. I think you've gone on mute.
4.8 annual plan update. Timmy, there you are. Could I get you please to give us the update on the annual plan?
Good afternoon. I am conscious that some of you have had this spiel of mine at least 10 times and counting now. So I'll give you the quick version of it very quickly. And I'll share a quick, just a brief PowerPoint here. Can you see my screen?
We can now. Yes, thank you.
Yes. And so the council has opened up for the annual plan, and the annual plan is up for consultation because there are some changes. This is the from what we have signaled in the LTP, from what we were going to do to what the prevailing economic environment is allowing us to do. And so we've done an assessment of those changes, and they've largely been considered to be cumulatively material and significant. And therefore, we are required by law to consult with the community on those changes. And so we've gone through them. For Kinloch, on my screen here, the comms team and community engagement team have very kindly provided highlights for every settlement across the district on what key parts of the annual plan are happening in their areas. And these are the key things that are happening in Kinloch that we propose in the coming year. There are no major changes. Most of the changes have been discussed. Say, for example, the deferral for wastewater has been discussed with Mike earlier, or the escalation in costs for the water treatment programs that have also been discussed with Tom. So the key things here are making improvements to the roads. Again, topics that Bryson has touched on, and refurbishing the exterior of the Kinloch Community Hall. Those are the key changes that are happening in your part of the district over the coming year. Although the list looks short, allow me to mention that council does a great many things, and some of them are so minor and routine, but they continue to need to happen, but they don't necessarily reach the trigger of the major activity. And that's why you might not see them on the screen. Doesn't mean that we're not doing more than this in Kinloch, but these are the key projects. As well as those key projects of the annual plan, we also are asking people as part of the annual plan to talk through some of the changes we're proposing to make to fees and charges. Of particular interest is the increase in solid waste disposal fees, which may impact on rates, and that's because of rising costs from the carbon credits and the emission trading scheme. And also we are asking people to have a say on the refreshing of the significance and engagement policy. This is a long-standing policy that council has had for many years. We're only asking, we've made some changes to help make it easier to understand, both for the community and for staff. And so no major overhaul in there. If anything, is simplifying it. And finally, we're asking people to provide feedback on a slight increase to town center Taupo management rate and the amount that businesses in Taupo CBD only contributes towards town center Taupo. And that increase is about a $19 increase because of shortfall in other income and rising costs. And that is, if you have any other questions for me, that's the high level overview of the update.
Thank you, Timmy. Can I ask you to stop sharing your screen?
Yes.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you, Timmy. As we know, we've just mentioned earlier with regards to the speed management consultation document and also the annual plan, we have a drop-in centre at the Tipsy Trout on Thursday between 4:30 and 6 p.m. And obviously both KCA and Kinloch Families Group have been disseminating this information out to as many of their members as they have. And from all accounts, people are taking it upon themselves to submit. So thank you very much for that. I think it's important, again, just to reiterate that the annual plan is, very much structured around the affordability for ratepayers, to continue our levels of service, make sure that they are actually maintained, and to ensure that our investment across our district enables our communities to thrive. So thank you. And those submissions will close on the 14th of April. So thank you, Timmy. Appreciate all that work. And those information posters have all gone out as well as part of a attachment to Kinloch Families and also Kinloch Community Association.
And through the chair, can I also say that from the council perspective as well, Libby as leading the community engagement team, they are willing and available to help work with rep groups who may choose to make a decision, make a submission in any parts of the annual plan there. And so that's also a service that is available should the rep group choose to be making a submission on any aspects of the annual plan.
Excellent. Thank you, Timmy.
Can I just ask a question, Madam Chair, Tammy?
Yes, certainly.
If she may not be able to, but are you able to clarify what is proposed around the Kinloch Community Hall exterior upgrade?
No, I am not able to clarify that. I'm sorry. I might, but I am happy to take a note of that question and come back to you via email if that would help.
Andrew, is there anything you would like to add to that?
No, I think we'll get Timmy to come back with the details. My understanding of that one is there is a small allowance in the plan for improving the paintwork around the outside of the hall and just improving the appearance, but nothing structural, Tim.
Right. There's just been some questions about it, or people not wanting clarification. So that would be good if Tammy can come back. Yeah.
Yes. I will do that. Yes.
Tanya, I know that we did meet and brought that up. Was there any further information that you could add to that?
We do have our facilities and our property team looking into it, because at the stage we couldn't plan anything outside of basic maintenance changes, but I did give them a heads up that we would like some kind of perspex roofing between the shed and the hall itself, especially during some rough weather, and potentially some anti-slip mats for the ground, because I can envision it getting slightly icy in winter and that sort of thing as well as we move furniture between the two sides.
Thank you. Did everyone get that? The clarity wasn't that great there, but one of the things we did talk about was putting some form of roofing across from the actual existing building to the new storage shed, because we've all experienced putting chairs away in the rain. And so that, and also the non-slip mats on the exterior decking. So thank you. Thanks, Tanya. Any further questions for Timmy? Thank you, Timmy. I know this has been a labour of love for you, and a lot of work has gone into this. So thank you and your team. The recommendation is that the Kinloch Rep Group receives the update on the Taupō District Council's annual plan. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? John?
Yeah, I'll move.
Tim, thank you. And all those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now, Tim, the floor is yours with the update of the Kinloch Community Association and the subcommittees. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm happy to report that the KCA is in good heart and working well, albeit there have been some cancellations, like with everything with COVID, including the popular poker run that's run annually, and a few of the activities in terms of the maintenance of the Whangamata Stream Trail have had to be put off while people are sick with COVID. The association's busy going through an attempt to update its constitution to bring it in line with the proposed change to the Incorporated Societies Act. Earlier in the meeting, mention was made of a scrub mower, and the association was purchasing one of those to assist its work in maintaining the Whangamata stream track, and I think that's where the extension of the machine, I think, from what I've seen of it in the demonstration, would be ideal to help council and Tū Whare in keeping that lakefront area maintained easily. So that's where that came from, I think. There's been ongoing concern and work. Deb Borlays has been working with Bruce Campbell in terms of the Whangamata stream and the concern around the drying up of one arm of that, and that's still working away at that, but it's a bit of an unknown really why for some reason the flow at that end of the stream is not really happening anymore. One other thing that the KCA I think might have raised for the agenda, but I don't think it got included, but we were hoping, if we look forward to the end of this term of the KRG and a new council coming in, that there would be protocols put in place early for the re-establishment of the KRG and other like representative groups around the lake or around the district. Last time, after the last elections, there was quite a hiatus before the KRG was able to get up and running, and even I guess in this last period since our last meeting seems quite a long time of 4 months. I think it was 4 or 5 months at the end of the last term, or before in the new term it got re-established. So is the council looking to put those protocols in place early so that it can be streamlined? I think that, there's nothing really, those are the main things from the KCA at this time, I think, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Tanya, are you able to answer any of those questions put by the KCA with regards to, in particular, the continuation and the sustainability of the KRG?
Look, as Shani and I have had a catch up about this because we've started our project team around the upcoming elections, and there's definitely a focus on the continuity as it moves forward. And as you know, we plan these meetings 12 months in advance, and Shani has the calendar booked and that sort of thing. So it is definitely a focus to ensure the continuity. James, did you want to jump in and add anything there? I guess there'll be more information as we get a little bit closer to that and what the potential outcome of the elections or those councillors that are running or rerunning may impact this group of people.
Thank you, Tanya. Through you, Madam Chair. The incoming council will decide its committee structure, and so we can provide advice to them around what has been done this term in terms of the Kinloch Representative Group and other representative groups. The frequency of meetings and so on is something that can be considered at that point as well. Then council will establish its committees, and then of course go out for, if there are going to be community representatives, go out for expressions of interest. Those processes just take time, and the elections are on the 8th of October. So there's just between that time and Christmas, there's just a lot of work going on behind the scenes, running those processes and getting everything in place for the new council. So I guess that's just trying to explain why things do take some time, but certainly just frequency of meetings that can all be considered at that point after the elections as well. So hopefully that goes some way towards answering your questions, Mr. Britton.
It does. I guess our view would be it would be a bold council who decided to not proceed in the future with these sort of representative groups, so that we would encourage you to carry on the planning so it is streamlined in the best possible way for an even, a good path forward.
I think, Madam Chair, through with our strategic direction, obviously the localism, there will be very hard push to sort of reject local communities going forward, representation. But I take your point. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Tim. Any further information, Tim, that you would like to put forward on behalf of the KCA?
One thing that got raised, and we congratulate, like Belinda did, with the work that the council's done to resurface the tennis courts. There was a suggestion that it would be good at the Kinloch domain courts to have a volley, they called volley boards, where a single player can hit a tennis ball against a wall and it comes back. What are those? Is volley board the right expression? I don't know, but do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, Tim. That's what we used to call it, a volley wall or a volley board.
Yeah. So there has been a request that would be a very good addition to the new and improved, very smart tennis courts. And the domain site was the one that was suggested.
Thank you. Well, possibly that can be taken forward. I don't know whose responsibility that would fall under, but you know, maybe it's something that the Kinloch community could look at putting in as part of the, you know, more community facilities. I don't know, but we will certainly bring that up at council. Thank you. Right, well, thank you, Tim. The recommendation is that the Kinloch Rep Group receives the information from the Kinloch Community Association and subcommittees. Tim, just one thing that I would highlight is with regards to the Whangata stream, council have certainly put their concerns forward and will do everything that they can to advocate for that. But seeing the latest email that came through from Deb this morning, it would appear that you know, that has been something that has happened before, but it's certainly within our concern, and obviously John Williamson might like to pick up on this given his environmental portfolio, but you have our assurance that we will certainly advocate where we can if there is any issues that council can assist with.
Thank you, that's appreciated.
Absolutely, thanks, Madam Chair.
Has been put forward that we receive the information. Did I get a seconder from Tim Britton? Mover and seconder. Yvonne, thank you. And John, can I get you as seconder? Thank you. All those in favour that the Rep Group information is received. Thank you. Update from the Families Trust has already been done. 4.11, last item on the agenda is the members' report. Are there any reports, any feedback from any items of interest from meetings within the community? Nothing to add?
I don't have a just to support your comments around about attending these meetings, drop-in sessions. It's always curious. That seems to be only when people's buttons get pushed about controversial stuff that people turn out. So as elected members, we find it very important that people listen to people face to face. I know COVID's been in the way the last couple of years, but just to press anybody just listening out there to or at least get the consultation submission form in around the annual plan and just attend these drop-in sessions would be really appreciated for councillors and staff.
Thank you, John. Yes, I'd reiterate that those drop-in sessions, there are further drop-in sessions at the AC Baths. There'll be library, the market, Sunday markets, Tipsy next Thursday. And so there are plenty of mechanisms to find out more information should anyone within our community require that. Right, we have. That brings us to the end of our meeting. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Tim, for your input on behalf of the Kinloch community and for those councillors, Kinloch families, and also Matt Andrews, our Māori representative. So thank you all, and I will bring the meeting to a close.
Should we give a move and seconder for the members' report?
Beg your pardon, thank you. Can I have a mover?
I'll move it.
And
I'll
a
move it.
seconder. Thank you, John.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tim. I'll be so pleased to get back to actually being in front of people face to face. I bring the meeting to a close at 4:42. Thank you, everyone, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Well done, Kath.